Hello everybody, Jake, your resident content cowboy here, yeehaw, and it's Monday. On Mondays, we do tier lists, and on Wednesdays, we wear pink.
So if you're from Africa, why are you white?
Oh my god, Karen, you can't just ask people why they're white.
I am so excited to be here with the final tier list of the year. Year one in Pokemon Unite has been an amazing journey for myself and hopefully for all of you as well. I'm going to talk about where all the Pokemon sit right now, where they may sit in the future, and what has been a crazy good year for this game. I hope you will join me and enjoy it. I just love these tier lists. I love getting to sit down and talk through everything that is going on inside the game. Let's just get into it here. Our categories are Pokemon of the Year. I will put a Pokemon up here that I think has been the best Pokemon throughout the year. We have our God tier. We always have one God in our God tier. It's the Pokemon that I think is doing the absolute best in the game right now. We have one God around here. We're not friggin' Norse. We have our S tier, our A plus tier, our A tier, our B plus tier, unsettling, and we also have our B tier. Year in, and we still have our B tier. We have our C tier, and then we of course have our D tier, our Decidueye Memorial tier. That tier used to be reserved only for Decidueye because it was so bad, and now other Pokemon may inhabit that tier. Where to begin? Where to go? You know what? I'll start with the first Pokemon on my list, an important one, and one that I still think is high up on the charts. It's almost difficult to imagine this Pokemon really inhabiting any other spots. That being said, Hoopa, once we get the new map, this Pokemon could either be the best or the worst. So I actually think that it going between paths might not be as valuable as it was before. I could be totally wrong about that. But one thing for sure, when the end of the game is not decided by insta scoring, this Pokemon could set up some of the most important counter plays throughout the entire game. Its Unite move still incredible. Its early pathing is still amazing. Its ability to counter jungle in that central area is pretty impressive. I still think Hoopa is without question one of the most impactful Pokemon in the game, used throughout the World Championship on some teams, and then other teams actually finding strategies around it. By the way, I will be talking a bit about what we saw at Worlds because there were a lot of different strategies brought out. I don't think there's really a way that you could think Hoopa is not still amazing. It's just solely unique in what it does, and because of that, I think it still hangs out in our S tier. Okay, let's see here. Ooh, where do we want to go next? Maybe something up in our A plus tier. Something up in A plus that I'd like to... You know what? Here we go. Greninja. I think Greninja is still amazing. You know, there are a few Pokemon in the game that are hyper carries, and Greninja is a hyper carry. What I mean by that is this is the kind of Pokemon that is high risk, high reward. Once it gets going and starts getting those KOs, it can be a full team decimating type Pokemon. Struggles early, has a lot of trouble in, you know, the top or bottom path. I don't know how that's going to change with the new map. There are new opportunities for experience across that map, but I still think you'd probably throw something like Greninja into that central area early so it can get enough experience to become impactful. But there are just so many strategies with that new map that I think could, you know, really start to form. So I don't know where Greninja is going to be there. I can tell you right now, it's still amazing, especially anything outside of full-on competitive. Full-on competitive, we even saw it at Worlds, but just playing solo, it's one of the best solo Pokemon in the entire game. I think Greninja is unbelievable. So good. The only thing that keeps it out of S tier for me is I think there are multiple Pokemon that kind of all do what Greninja does in different ways, but very well. And I don't think there's anything about Greninja that's particularly broken. And I think Pokemon that hang out in the S tier often feel a bit broken to me. Let's take a look at an A tier Pokemon. Charizard. I often talk about Charizard as a very high tier Pokemon. Its biggest issue, of course, is its Unite move getting canceled. Unite moves are being changed in year 2 of Pokemon Unite, and that's going to have some wild ramifications on a lot of different Pokemon. I can't wait to see how that actually shakes out. Right now, just playing with things on the public test server, I can tell you that certain Unite moves feel way less impactful than they did before, but I'm also playing on a server with crazy lag and 3 AFKs on each team a game, so it's really hard to discern what exactly is going on inside the game by playing that test server. That being said, back to Charizard right here. Its Unite move is amazing. It clears out farm better than most Pokemon in the game. You can just sweep it through that central area up and down really quickly, and because of that, you often end the game at a very high level. This is a strong carry Pokemon. I don't think it's as strong as Greninja personally, but I do think it's a very solid carry. A tier Charizard for sure. You'd want to play it in that central area if you could, because it really struggles until it gets level 5. Basically, and you know, that just puts it at a disadvantage against the Pokemon like, I don't know, Pikachu, Ninetales, someone who kind of does very, very well in path early. Let's take a look at someone I would consider B+, and I just talked about one of them. It's Pikachu. Pikachu might get hurt a lot by the upcoming changes to Unite moves. We will have to see how that is going to play out. Also, black emblems are getting a nerf, and you know, any Pokemon that takes advantage of a green-black build is going to be hurt by that a bit. Right now, I think Pikachu is very solid. Saw 0 play at Worlds, if I'm remembering correctly. I'll take a sip of my coffee as I pretend to remember. Don't remember. So, I don't think I saw it make much competitive play, but this list isn't only about competitive, you know, the competitive 5v5 game and the game that 99% of the players play are not exactly the same at all times, and I will make distinctions throughout this list as to where I see that. So, Pikachu didn't see a lot of competitive play, but it's still extremely good. One of the meanest Pokemon in lane or path, as Pokemon Unite calls it in the game. I think every single one of its moves is good. I think its Unite move is really, really stellar. I do think it could be hurt by some of the upcoming changes, but Pikachu has been good for a while now, and I think it's still in a position to be pretty solid as we go. Let's talk about a B tier choice, something that's just kind of fine. I'm trying to think of a Pokemon where I go, that's fine. You're not bad, but I don't love you. Let me see some good B tier candidate. One of my favorites. I actually love playing this Pokemon, Mamoswine. I think Mamoswine is always really, really close. This actually might be B+. I might be wrong here. I think Mamo is closer and closer to being a really good Pokemon all the time. It just feels like it's kind of beat out by a few other Pokemon in its role. I really like Mamo. I'm going to consider moving it up to B+ here. I think Ice Fang just has the real unfortunate issue of running into Blisseys sometimes. There are lots of Blisseys out there, and Safeguard really hurts this Pokemon. There are also a decent amount of Pokemon that just feel like they can negate this move's ability, so I think Icicle Crash is the way to go on Mamoswine. Its Unite move, still a little underwhelming, but I actually really love playing this Pokemon. One of my favorite defenders to play. I think B tier or B+. I might move it up, but I usually don't. Usually once I place it, I kind of leave it there. Let's take a look at a C tier Pokemon. These are Pokemon that are kind of underwhelming right now and need some help. One of my faves, Mr. Mime. So I think Mr. Mime is C, hovering into B. It does have some carry potential. Maybe it's not now. I'm going to leave it C for now. I don't know. Here's the thing about Mr. Mime. Did see some competitive play by one of the best Mr. Mimes, maybe the best Mr. Mime in the world, bruv, from Nouns. But I think Mr. Mime still needs some love. I've actually been messing around with it on the public test server, and it's getting some pretty cool reworks. So they're slight move reworks, but they're nice little additions to Mr. Mime. I would like to see this Pokemon move up in viability. One of the biggest problems with Mr. Mime is you're kind of competing with a bunch of different Pokemon for its role. Although it does, Confusion is still really strong. I think just because of its secure, I think I have to move it to B. I need to find someone to throw down there and C. Mime is so teetering. It's so teetering, but maybe it's moving up to B soon, and right now it's C, but it could be rocketing even higher. I think I'm going to leave it B. I love you too much, Mr. Mime. I do. I love you too much. Let's find a C on here. Someone that I can confidently say this Pokemon is just a bit underwhelming right now. I don't know, it's hard. I even did this tier list earlier, and I know the Pokemon I put down in this category. Let's move on. Well, yeah, let's move on. I'm going to move back up to the top of our list. We talked about it earlier, so I'm just going to pop it up there. Blissey. Blissey's insane. Blissey's crazy. Oh my god, that Blissey's crazy. I don't know what else to say except I feel like a team without a Blissey is at a disadvantage. Even in competitive play, teams were trying to play without Blisseys, and it's really, really hard. There were amazing teams who set up incredible strategies, but still not having a Blissey is just tough. It gives you so much. Blissey is getting a nerf in the upcoming patch. I didn't get to include it on my last patch video because I didn't have all the numbers for it, but Blissey is getting a nerf. Even with its nerf, I think it's still looking pretty good. I believe it's just to its healing on soft boiled. Right now, the best healer in the game. Egg Bomb's still amazing. Its Unite move is amazing. Blissey. It's Blissey. I mean, it's so good. Blissey is so good. Here's a Pokemon that I feel like kind of hangs out. This is another BC. You know what? I'll skip it for now. Let's move on to Cramorant. Cramorant, I think, is going to hang out in the S tier for me, but only because right now it is sort of broken. However, soon with the changes to Black Emblems, I think this is probably going to hop out of this tier. That being said, the new map has a lot of different positioning around the center of it, and I think with this Pokemon's ability to dive, you might be setting up actually another crazy situation where Cramorant is overpowered. There are a lot of interesting mobility situations around Rayquaza, and I want to see how that's going to play out. Right now, I just think Cram, Dive, and Air Slash is amazing. It is getting an Air Slash nerf. It might be enough to kind of bump this Pokemon down from its pedestal. Between cooldown nerfs and that nerf, we might see Cram drop a little bit. But right now, I just think Cram is nuts. It's probably the best it's ever been inside the game. And Dive and Air Slash is really, really brutal. Really mean. Let's take a look at another A+ Pokemon. Here we go. I see your little ears down there, buddy. Gengar. Gengar is on the verge of S, I think, at times. It's really good. Both of its builds are good right now. Cooldown will probably hurt the Hex build a little bit, but it shouldn't be too bad. In fact, I think with how Unite moves are changing in the upcoming year 2 of Pokemon Unite, and if you don't know, the basics of how Unite moves are changing are this. Every Pokemon, I believe it's class-based, and I could be kind of wrong about that, but it seems like every Pokemon unites and gets a different bonus from it, rather than kind of uniting and, as I look at it now, kind of going Super Saiyan and just going wild. So no longer are you going to unite as Cinderace and get the same movement speed that you did before, but you will get some benefits. It could be to attack speed, I can't remember what it is, but each Pokemon has sort of an individual thing that they get, and I believe it's kind of broken down by sort of your Pokemon's class. I think all the defenders get 30 or 40% HP or something like that as a shield. And then you look at other Pokemon like Speedsters and they get a ton of movement speed. So all that to say, Gengar right now, I think, does well and will probably do even better once more Pokemon get less from their Unite moves, because it'll just be easier for you to KO those Pokemon. So I think Gengar is probably A+ right now. Strong hyper carry, teetering into S, and could be making its way there as soon as the new changes start to roll out. Let's take a look at another A-tier Pokemon. Yeah, I'd say you're one of. Oops, I'd say you're one of them, buddy. Sylveon. I think Sylveon's an A-tier Pokemon. So this Pokemon has gone back and forth in my eyes for a while, but the ability to get Hyper Voice early and then just dominate for a very long time is extremely powerful. We've seen it used competitively to a great degree, and I think this Pokemon is actually probably in a great spot heading into year 2, because there's just more experience on the map, and more experience on the map means a faster level 4, means you get to just be mean earlier. I think you could split up the center area right now, even just take one entire Pokemon out of that, and the Pokemon in the center, like let's say you have a Greninja there, will still get 5, and then you could walk to path and get an easier 4 with a Pokemon like Sylveon. All you need is level 4 to start dominating with this Pokemon. So I think Sylveon's pretty amazing. I wish its Unite move had a lower cooldown. That's probably my big complaint about this Pokemon, but in general, really solid. Another B+. Alright, I think this is a good spot for you. Zera Aura. Zera Aura is a weird one. So Zera Aura, a long time ago, in a Pokemon Unite far away, Zera Aura was crazy good. crazy, crazy good. Really overpowered. I mean, maybe even not overpowered, but super, super solid. And then they went through a weird series of nerfs and buffs on this Pokemon. And now we are kind of landing at a Zera Aura that's pretty dang good. I thought we might see some of it at Worlds. I know a lot of teams were testing it out, but we did not see a lot of Zera Aura. It still runs into an issue that its moves, you know, you really don't become super strong until level 8, which is pretty far down the line. But, you know, as we move into this year 2, again, more experience means Pokemon that need more experience are going to get better. And Pokemon that don't need as much experience are going to kind of get hurt a little bit. So it doesn't mean as much for your Mamoswine to be level 14 as it does your Zera Aura to be level 14. So more experience on the map helps Zera Aura more than it helps Mamoswine. So I think this Pokemon could be getting a little bit better here in year 2. Also, the map just feels, it feels a little larger. I can't even tell you if scale-wise that's correct, but it feels a little bit bigger at times. And I think because of that, a Pokemon like Zera Aura that feels like it can kind of bounce around, do tons of damage, rip down wild Pokemon and objectives, I think it could be looking pretty good. Right now, I think it's doing pretty solid. It's been low for a while, and it finally got some buffs. It got itself that level 9 Unite move, so I do think that it's doing better here in the B+ tier. Let's see, Dragonite. Hey Dragonite, you're an S tier Pokemon. I don't know if you're going to stay there. You're getting some nerfs, but it's hard to think that this Pokemon isn't going to be one of the top Pokemon in the game. Its objective secure with Hyper Beam is objectively insane, and it's also objectively insane. So I think that this is just a crazy good Pokemon. You saw a ton of it at Worlds. Not only can it secure objectives, it can also carry pretty dang hard. It's one of the best Pokemon in the game, and I'm not surprised that they're nerfing it. I don't know how valuable it's going to be as we move into a world where the objectives are not as game-breaking as Zapdos was, right? So Zapdos set up a reality where you get Zapdos, and I don't know the statistic on this, but I bet 95, somewhere between 90 and 95% of the time, the team that gets Zapdos wins. I don't think that's crazy to think. Probably 1 out of 10, maybe 2 out of 10, maybe it's 80%, maybe 2 out of 10. The team that gets Zapdos doesn't win. But it was very, very likely you were going to win. With Rayquaza, I don't really think that's exactly the same. You know, if you get a lucky last hit steal on Rayquaza, but your team is down, it really doesn't affect the game in the same way at all. So I think the ability to rip down objectives might be in some ways less important, but, you know, there's still the big moments, the big fights. You're getting tons of KOs. It's probably still going to be one of the best Pokemon in the game. Let's talk about a Pokemon that I think I've undervalued a little bit, and the more I see it played, the more I'm impressed with it, and that's Snorlax. I think solo, this is still one of the toughest Pokemon to play because you're a defender and your only real job is being a full-on defender. However, watching this Pokemon competitively, especially with some of the players who are playing this Pokemon right now, ooh, Snorlax is so mean. Moving into the new map, I'm really excited to see what this Pokemon can do because you've got this really interesting sort of choke point. So, like, imagine my head is like Rayquaza, like this would be a big Rayquaza, right? My head is Rayquaza, and there are these rocks around Rayquaza right here. By the way, I keep calling it Quaza, but they're telling me it's Quaza. So it's right around here. There are these rocks, and you can't get in super easily around these. So there's not movement through the dome piece right here. So Snorlax could be right down by this mustache right here, just pushing everybody. Like, imagine this block. Flip my mustache around, and that is Snorlax just pushing everybody out with block. You could set up some really interesting stuff right there. I'd like to think that was a very good demonstration. Let's talk about a B+er. Decidueye. It might be A. Solo, this Pokemon's higher. It's tough. Here's the reason I think I want to keep this B+. And I think this Pokemon's really good, especially, you know, sometimes solo because you have to be the one to secure the objectives. But here's the thing. The game is so dive heavy right now. Gengar can hide. Greninja jumps at you. Cramorant will dive around you. Dragonite dances forward. Blissey, you can't hurt. and it can just walk at you. And then you got Pokemon like, you know, Sylveon or whatever, Charizard. It feels like you can do a decent job against them. Zera Aura jumps in at you. Tons of Aegislash jumps in at you. Zarina jumps in at you. Lucario, Machamp. There are just so many Pokemon that jump at you, and I think that hurts a Pokemon like Decidueye because it's not very mobile, and it's hard for this Pokemon to get away. Because of that, I want to put it in the B tier for now. Big sip of coffee. I'm gonna take another. Got an ice cube in the mouth that whole time. You know when you're taking a sip and it's just all ice? You're just like, get away. I'm trying to get something in here, buddy. That's where I think Decidueye lands right now. And it's really a mobility issue and the fact that it's just squishy and things can jump on it and KO it. Okay, Buzzwol. Let's talk Buzzwol. I think it's C tier. It's B or C, but I think Buzzwol runs into the super unfortunate issue that it is inside of a game with a character like Blissey. And I think the problem is this Pokemon just gets shut down so hard by Blissey so consistently that, and there's a Blissey on every team, that I just think Buzzwol is hurting. And it's unfortunate because it's a super fun Pokemon to play, but so much of it can get canceled. It's like, imagine when Charizard's Unite gets canceled, but it's just happening to you all the time. That's what it feels like playing Buzzwol. Now, when you get a nice experience lead on the enemy, oh my gosh, it feels like you're just punishing them. But there are other Pokemon that are better with that experience lead, and that's why I think Buzzwol is in a tough spot right now. It's getting a buff to 2 of its moves, so I'm excited to see what they do with it, but I think this one's probably going to take the path of Azumarill and just walk a long road to getting better here. Speaking of Azumarill, let's pop it up there. I think it's B. I think it might be close to B+ at times. I do think the new Unite move change could actually be a huge nerf to this Pokemon. So a lot of what Azumarill does is it gets its Unite move and then it basically dashes in, does a ton of damage, kind of goes nuts for a little bit, and you've got your, you know, your use out of Azumarill. It's kind of in a weird way, a bit of an assassin type Pokemon. But with this new change coming down the pike, it looks like, is it coming down the pike or pipe? It looks like that you're not going to become as crazy with your Unite move. So even a Pokemon with a low Unite move like this, you just don't have the same hyper carry possibilities. I think it actually might be hurting someone like Azumarill. But right now, I think it's fine. It's B tier. It took them a long time, and it finally got to B tier. I think it's fine. Let's take a look at another Pokemon. I'll say this one's probably, this is either A or A+. I'm going to put Sword up in A+ right now. So, Aegislash, a little different from Greninja and Gengar. I don't think it's the exact same kind of hyper carry. This one actually feels like it operates a little bit more as an assassin in some ways. It's an interesting Pokemon where you dive in, and if your timing is good and you know how to play Sword, you're diving in and you're just deleting something. And then you also have this really amazing ability to then throw up your shield, essentially, and kind of wait out some damage and then possibly dive in again. I think it's a high skill ceiling Pokemon. We saw it played very well in the World Championships by a few teams, actually. A few regions are using Aegislash. And I think the nice thing about this Pokemon is you actually don't need the center area for it to excel. You can do pretty well in Path with it, and you'll probably make it to that first Dreadnought or Reggie in the new map. And at this point, I think, even though it doesn't carry as hard sometimes as the other two, it doesn't delete the same way Gengar and Greninja can, I still think it's a really, really solid high-level carry Pokemon. And again, you don't need the center area for it, which I think is a huge, huge benefit. Let's see here. Oh boy, let's talk about Serena. I think Serena is S tier. I said this on my last tier list that I thought Serena was kind of the craziest sort of its role all-rounder between Serena, Machamp, Lucario. And I think Worlds really showed that to us. I mean, Serena was unbelievably good, like way too good, and it's getting a nerf. So it does not surprise me that Serena was... It it actually surprises me a little that it did that well. I mean, there were players who just dominated the whole tournament with Serena. I think Stomp is amazing. Triple Axel also pretty good. Might be the go-to move after they nerf Stomp here. We're going to have to see. But Serena is crazy, crazy good right now. Without question, S-tier Pokemon also doesn't need the center area, which is really strong, you know, to think about. A Pokemon like Greninja is really great, or a Pokemon like Cinderace. Let me just put him on the board here. Cinderace, I think, is also an A+ Pokemon, but they need that center area. So they're going up against a lot of different Pokemon for this role, where a Pokemon like Serena, you don't need to do that. You can get everything you need out of the path. And in fact, because it's stacking, you probably want to play it in path. Whereas a Pokemon like Cinderace, Greninja, they have such trouble in path or lane. So I think because of that, you know, they're a little less viable just because there are so many other Pokemon that are kind of fighting with them for a role. You can put Serena anywhere and it'll do just fine. Let's see. Let's talk about another Pokemon that I like a lot, Duraludon. I think Duraludon's A tier. I think it's very solid. It's getting an interesting rework to its Dragon Tail. I don't think that Duraludon gets the love that it deserves sometimes because it was crazy overpowered when it was released and now it's just powerful. But I do think this Pokemon's really, really powerful. Probably outshined by Greninja and Cinderace, and that's the problem a little bit. But I do think Duraludon is still a very, very good Pokemon. Let's see. Who's next on the list? Ooh, let's do a new one. Let's do Glaceon. Glaceon, I think, is great. Really great. A? Maybe A+ at times. It's definitely not an S tier Pokemon, but it's really good. I mean, its synergy with its Unite move and Icicle Spear is the reason that you play this Pokemon. It's just so incredibly strong, and you can kind of, when set up right, you can kind of delete Pokemon, especially squishier Pokemon on the enemy team. So when I'm playing Glaceon, my job is usually get ready for the fight, try to charge up some of my crystals if I can, see the enemy Greninja, throw my Unite, target the enemy Greninja. And if I can do that, and, you know, we're not flipping Zap or something like that, then we're set. Also, if you are flipping Zap or something like that, put it on Zap, and all of a sudden you're just outputting a ton of consistent damage in big chunks at that Zapdos. So I think Glaceon's really good. Really, really good. I actually thought Buzzwol was going to be better than Glaceon, but Buzzwol just unfortunately kind of came and disappointed a bit, and Glaceon came out and was a bit of a star. Let's talk about a Pokemon that was not a star also. That's Espeon. So Espeon feels like it still needs some love to find its footing. They're giving it more buffs, which it probably needs. And, you know, all the time I think this Pokemon's very close. The big issue I find with Espeon is as the game goes on, it starts to get worse and worse. So basically, early, when this Pokemon gets its Psyshock or even stored power, if you have a level advantage or something like that, when it gets its Psyshock early, it's actually really mean, really brutal, can secure in path very well, gets big KOs, but as the match continues to go on, that advantage that it has, it just continues to taper off until you've made your way to a Zapdos fight, and you're really not as good as you were at the start of the match. And I think that's kind of its big problem. So they're going to need to figure out a way to sort of make this Pokemon a little bit better as the game goes on. I don't know what year 2 in this new map is going to do to a Pokemon like Espeon, but I don't think it's in a super amazing place heading into year 2 in this new map. Dell Fox. I think Dell Fox is great. I think it's A, maybe even A+. I do think that, well, you know, I'm going to give it A+, actually. Here's the thing about Dell Fox. So I think Fire Spin's amazing, although it did get a bit of a nerf. But I think both of its builds are good right now, and Flame Charge is getting another buff. So I actually think you can play this Pokemon with Flame Charge right now and do pretty dang well. The mobility on it's incredible, and with a meta that is so divey when you have Pokemon like Serena just jumping in, it's nice to be able to actually get away for a half second. You still might not be able to because it could just, you know, double drop kick run at you or something like that. But in general, I think the added mobility is a huge benefit for this Pokemon. Its Unite move is still really amazing. Mystical Fire is still really amazing. I think Dell Fox is really good. I was actually shocked we didn't see more of it at Worlds, but clearly, you know, teams could not take advantage of it the way we can possibly with emblems and stuff like that. This might be closer to an A tier. I could hear an argument for that, but I actually think Dell Fox is really great. I think it's a really great Pokemon. Ninetales, you hang out with Pikachu. I think Ninetales and Pikachu are kind of both in this good spot. They're really good, very good early. You have them in path early and you're feeling great. It's hard to beat these Pokemon. When you're a Pokemon on the other team, like, I don't know, Charizard or something like that, and you're going up against the Ninetales, good luck. This Pokemon is just so good. Huge range. Both of its movesets really hurt the enemy, especially in path. But that phase doesn't last as long sometimes as we would maybe like for a Pokemon like Ninetales specifically. So I think as the match goes on, you just start to lose more and more viability. It might actually, you know, kind of jump above Pikachu a bit too. Just given that its Unite move is kind of a big burst of damage, I wonder if that's going to be more beneficial as we move into year 2, but I'm really not sure. Right now, though, I think a solid B+. Really good Pokemon. Yeah, good Pokemon. Wigglytuff. Wigglytuff is B. I think it's B. I think Wigglytuff's B. It's good, not great. Sing is still good. It's just not Blissey. Basically, Wiggly isn't Blissey, and that's a problem. If you're looking for that role, you're kind of running into what sort of tank do you want to have on the team. Wiggly's a pretty good one, but I feel like I would have Blissey every day of the week. There's another Pokemon I would probably have instead of it as well. So it just kind of gets outclassed by a few of the Pokemon in the game. It's getting a buff soon. I don't know how relevant it's going to be because it's a double slap buff, but we shall see. Maybe when the Unite moves change, Wigglytuff's Unite move goes back to being one of the best team fight Unite moves in the game. We're gonna have to see. But right now, I just think it's solid. It's a solid Pokemon. It's a B tier. Let's talk about Slowbro. I think Slowbro is. It might honestly be S. I've put it in the S tier recently, and it's either S or A+. So I might put it A+ just because it's kind of competing for a role again against the best sort of tanky character in the game, in my opinion, which is Blissey. But at the same time, this Pokemon is so good. Scald does a ton of damage and really hurts attackers, whereas Surf is still incredible at just, you know, controlling the enemy team while also outputting some really nice damage. Amnesia just lets you heal. Teams are even running Telekinesis at Worlds. I think I'm going to put it S tier. That's probably too high. I'll keep it A+. I'm going to keep it A+, but I think Slowbro is just so freaking good. It's so good. Scald is finally amazing, and it's Scald's world. We're just living in it. Greedon. If you've heard my tier list before, you know what I think about Greedon. I actually think on the new map, Greedon's probably even better because I think you're going to be able to just run around the map and cause more chaos. Greedon reminds me of Hoopa in that they fill a very specific role and no one seems to do what they do as good as them. And when you see people who are amazing with Greedon, you just think, wow, this Pokemon is so insanely difficult to deal with. The thing that makes it S tier for me is I just really don't see anyone in the game that can kind of fill this role. And when played right, it's an extremely powerful role. And that's sort of this harasser tank in the enemy's face, constantly denying them XP. It's a really powerful Pokemon when you know how to play it well. Let's take a look here at... Ooh, this is a Pokemon I think I've probably undervalued before. Gardevoir. I think Gardevoir is probably an A. It might even be A+. It's up in this realm right here, for sure. So I think we saw Coordinated on Team Renaissance. This Gardevoir just do amazing. I actually might put it A+. I don't know. The issue with Gardevoir is sort of the issue with a lot of these, you know, ranged attackers sometimes. It just has no mobility. I think I'm going to keep it A because it really doesn't have a way to get away from a lot of difficult situations. But I think Gardevoir is in a great spot right now. And A is a tier of all super solid Pokemon. So definitely nothing to scoff at there. Both builds are good, Psyshock and Future Sight. I think right now I kind of like Psyshock more ever since the recent buffs. I've really enjoyed playing Psyshock, but a really, really solid Pokemon. I think Its only real issue is it's pretty experience hungry, but on the new map, that could be a positive for it. It definitely could. Let's talk Lucario. I think Lucario's in an A+ spot right now. For the first time in a long time, or the second time, I think, on my tier list, I have not put Lucario in the S tier. I think Lucario's amazing. It's been great for a long time. We've seen a lot of amazing players use it, and even in Worlds, we saw some players bust it out, but it's just outclassed right now. I think it's actually outclassed by both Zarina and Machamp. So Machamp, I would say, is also A+. Solo, I think Machamp is probably S. Coordinated, it's A+. I might even move it to S. It's so good. I think I actually am going to move it to S. Last tier list, I kept it A+. I think it's actually S. So it is getting a nerf. We're going to have to see how that affects this Pokemon. It's getting a nerf to Dynamic Punch, which is probably, you know, the best part of its kit. So we'll see if that really changes what's going on with Machamp. But Machamp is so freaking good. And we saw it really crush at Worlds. Probably not as hard as Arena, but Machamp is a superstar Pokemon. Play it in Path. You don't need to play it in the center area. You can get all your attack weight stacks and do a ton of damage with it. It's Karate Chop is great secure early, so I think Machamp is, yeah, I think it's an S tier Pokemon. Really, really good. And then Lucario, again, A+. Don't count it out. Still amazing. I just think Zarina and Machamp right now are a bit better than Lucario. Where do I want to go next? So many good Pokemon. Let's do Absol. Absol's either B or C. It's probably B because it carries super hard. So Absol got nerfed. And I think the nerfs have hurt it. I've seen a lot of great Absol players still show off some really impressive plays with it. It's definitely not bad. I don't think I can put it all the way down in C. But I think Absol had this weird trajectory where it was pretty dang good. Really good. And then the game buffed it in one of the most confusing buffs of all time. Then the game nerfed it pretty hard. So it kind of went through this thing where it's like, why did you even buff me in the first place? Because I was doing just fine, and now I'm kind of worse than I was before the buff. So I think that's where Absol hangs out. If you're really good at carrying with it, it's probably a little bit higher, but I think it's kind of been knocked down, right? Back down to earth, back down to the B tier where it kind of belongs right now. I think so. I definitely do. Okay, we'll talk about a C tier, Talonflame. This is maybe a little extreme, but I think when you compare it to the other speedsters, Talonflame is kind of the most lacking right now. Its mobility is amazing, but its damage output's just been nerfed so many times. It might have only just been one time, but it's been nerfed enough to where it's just like not really doing it right now. Its cooldown is pretty high on its moves. It can't delete, so when you're a Pokemon like Talonflame and you fly into the enemy team and you land on them and they don't go away, you don't delete them, all of a sudden you're like, hey, what's up? What are we doing? I'm going to try to run away with Flame Charge or an eject button or something like that. Going to come back in, try to do this thing again. So I think it kind of runs into that problem, right? And this is probably one of the weakest spots it's been in the game. Maybe not as bad as launch Talonflame, which felt pretty weak, but it's been a long time. Maybe the stats are kind of similar right now. You know, they increased the charge on its Unite move, so it takes a little longer to do that. Its Unite move might be getting a lot worse depending on how that all shakes out with the new thing. I just think Talon needs some love. And as long as we're talking about Talon, let's talk about Talon's arch nemesis, Garchomp. That's an inside joke to another video. I think Garchomp is still probably the lowest tier Pokemon in the game, but don't get this confused. Don't get any of this confused with what you need to play, whether or not you can win with these Pokemon. This isn't a tier list based on win rate or something like that, because that factors in a lot of different things. I bet Garchomp has a higher win rate than quite a few of the Pokemon on top of it. I just think Garchomp suffers from Garchomp things, which is it's really hard to chase down enemy Pokemon and get those big KOs. Even great Garchomp players, I mean, I don't feel like it's insanely difficult to just kind of stay away from them a little bit. And we'll talk about another dragon here in a little bit that I think is pretty crazy that kind of solves a lot of Garchomp's problems. So I think Garchomp right now, for me, still hangs out in the bottom tier here. But it's not unplayable. In some ways, I would say if you're playing solo, pick Garchomp over Espeon, probably over Talon maybe if you're solo. Talon can kind of do some pretty good stuff solo. Probably over Mamo or maybe Azumarill, maybe Mime. I think you can do some pretty good carry stuff with it, and you can clear wild Pokemon pretty easily, but I think everything going on with Garchomp it's just really hard to make the impact you want to with this Pokemon, because you can walk away from Garchomp, and the people who think you can't, I mean, trust me, I could walk away from Garchomp. I do it all the time. They're pretty easy to walk away from. Let's talk about Krusty Boy. Krusty Boy, I think, is a B tier Pokemon. Pretty solid. It's gonna get hurt with the critical hit changes to emblems, but right now I think it's pretty good, you know? Strong, X's are strong, Stealth Rock's pretty strong. It feels like it's in this weird place where its utility is a little head scratchy at times. Like, what do you do with this Pokemon exactly? But I think it's pretty good. I think solo it's actually pretty solid as a kind of a carry. So I think it's sort of a weird place where a few of these Pokemon hang out in, right? Like, I think Mime, like setting it right next to Mime right here, I think Mime and Crustle kind of feel very similar to me. They're tanky, but it feels like their role isn't set up to be super tanky in the best way. And they do a good amount of damage, a lot of damage sometimes, but they're also not supposed to be your #1 damage dealer on the team. Although I do love its Unite move. Its Unite move almost moves it up to B+ tier. I think Crustle's Unite is so good. Let's see here. Our next Pokemon, Venusaur. I think Venusaur is a B+ for me. B+ or A. It sustains pretty amazing. I might move it to A. This is a teetering one for me. It's B+ or A. Do I like it as much as things in the A tier? I think I do. That's close. That's a close one. I think Venusaur has been really good for a while. Petal Dance, Giga Drain, I do think is the build for this Pokemon. Solar Beam, also pretty good, but Petal Dance, Giga Drain, I think is the stronger build for this Pokemon. It's really good, pretty good Unite move. Once you use your Unite and you just kind of start going crazy with those low cooldowns and you're just, you know, Giga Draining all the time, getting all your health back, you kind of become a bit of a monster. So I think this is a very, very good Pokemon. A is probably a fair place to put it. Eldegoss. Eldegoss is always a weird one, and I have to throw it down here in the B tier. It's just so... I don't know what you do. I don't know what you do with this Pokemon. It does a lot of damage, kind of. It really does. But then it's also kind of the healer, but it's kind of not. It's like confusing. I think the big thing with Eldegoss is it's confusing. It's not bad. Everything in the B tier is not bad. In fact, there aren't really... As they get better with balance, I think the idea of a Pokemon you can't play and a Pokemon you have to play does start to shrink more and more. And what you find more is there are a lot of good Pokemon and then a few amazing Pokemon. Like everything in the S tier and a lot of the A+ tier, they just feel like, wow, these are so good. And the rest of the roster is also really, really great. Eldegoss is just in this weird spot where it's not Blissey, it's not Hoopa. What are you replacing for it? You're never upset to have it on your team, but it always feels like, there are just so many other Pokemon that could probably fill that role better. It would probably be better to have a Slowbro. And I know they're not super comparable, but they're kind of, it's weird. They're kind of, I don't know. I've felt like this Pokemon's been in a weird spot for a long time. Trevenant. I think Trevenant's really good. I think it's an A tier Pokemon. One of the better defenders inside the game. Up there with Snorlax. It has different utility. Snorlax is probably better at sort of, you know, setting up big moments of crowd control, or CC, where it will jump into the enemy back line, sort of hitting them with a block and pushing them into a wall, stuff like that. Trevenant is sort of a Pokemon that needs to take a second to get to the enemy, but then once it's there, it has incredible control over what's happening in the battle while it's moving people around. It's also hard to KO, feels like it has a crazy amount of health, it does a lot of damage, regenerates health like crazy. Trevenant's very, very good. Blastoise. Blastoise is a Pokemon that I think you could probably say it's still A. I'd probably teeter it into B+ right now. It's just not as good as it used to be. It's still really good though. It's really good. It's either B+ or A. A very, very solid Pokemon. It's not what it was. It's gone through 2 phases of being completely broken. And right now I would just say it's really good. Blastoise is really good. B+, I think, is a fair place to put it. I think both Surf and Rapid Spin are good builds. You could play either one of them and do well. Surf leans you more into sort of the stereotypical defender category. You're pushing enemies around. You're kind of setting up things for your team. You're making sure that they can't get to your squishy Pokemon. And then Rapid Spin is sort of a little bit of that, but also you're just this very frustrating thing that can dive into the enemy backline. Again, a lot of Pokemon can dive into the enemy backline right now. Finally on our list, let's talk about Tyranitar. I don't think Tyranitar is S tier. I do think it teeters between A+ and A though. I actually think it might be A+. Here's the thing about Tyranitar. So Tyranitar feels like it's the worst thing possible for Garchomp is that Tyranitar exists, because Tyranitar does a lot of Garchompy things, except it has one thing that Garchomp doesn't have, which is a crazy good move for catching up to enemies. So Ancient Power is just so good. The mobility's insane. I bet it will see a nerf at some point. And it also gives you massive shields. This Pokemon's stupid. It's stupid. I don't think it's broken, but it's really, really good. And its mobility is incredible. And because of that, it's almost like they just re-released a new Garchomp. They're like, okay, you have trouble sticking with opponents with Garchomp. That's fine. We'll bring out another Garchomp and it'll stick to opponents way better. It'll move around the battlefield a lot better. And its Unite move can execute opponents when they're under a certain amount of health. Why? I don't know. That's just what that's what they let it do. Its big issues are its other two moves are fine. I think Sandtomb's actually really fun, but I do think it pales in comparison to Ancient Power, because mobility is one of the most important things when it comes to a game where you need to be at different places of the map and you need to be in position to make things happen. So mobility is just extremely key. And I think Tyranitar, for that reason, I think Tyranitar is very, very good. And Ancient Power is the move of choice on this Pokemon. That's every Pokemon in the game right now. There are more coming. Dodrio. People are telling me it's Scizor. Sorry, I didn't know that. I always thought it was Scissor. Mew are all coming to the game. I've got to play Dodrio and Scissor, and I like them both for different reasons. Dodrio is going to be wild. And I kind of, if they change the way its controls work, and they're a little more intuitive, oh my gosh, that Pokemon's gonna be mean and weird. And then Scissor is weird because Scyther is not very good. I thought it was gonna be good. It's not very good, actually. It's weird. It's kind of too weak. I think there might be something wrong with it, but it's too weak. But Scissor actually is great. I think it's really, really strong. It brawls super well. It also has a move that kind of gives it a shield. It does a ton of damage, jumps in. I like it a lot. And then, of course, we have Mew. And Mew is looking pretty cool. We have not got a chance to play Mew yet. But here you go. Year 1 of Pokemon Unite. Remote Stadium. The final tier list with these Pokemon on this map. And now it's time to announce my God tier for the week. And then my Pokemon of the year. So, my God tier. It's been Blissey for a while. And I'm going to let Blissey take a rest. Because right now it's Serena. So, Serena dominated Worlds. Serena dominates solo. One of the most frustrating Pokemon to run into. My big shout out right now for a Pokemon that's just unbelievably good. It feels unfair when you're playing against a good Serena. It's Serena, God tier Pokemon of the week, and now Pokemon of the year. Throughout all the tier lists, there are only a couple Pokemon that jump to my mind as possible Pokemon of the year candidates, and I will show them to you right now. My possible Pokemon of the year candidates are Hoopa, Lucario, Garchomp, and outside of that, maybe Blissey, maybe Greedon, maybe Dragonite. Those are the ones that are maybes, but these are the ones I was kind of thinking of for Pokemon of the Year. Hoopa changed the game in such a profound way, it's hard to even explain what to do with that. Lucario has been Lucario since Lucario was Lucario, and for the longest time, Lucario was the end-all be-all, and it's finally kind of been knocked off its pedestal. And then there's Garchomp, a Pokemon that everyone has rooted for all year. We always wanted to succeed, and it never really gets there. Well, today, it doesn't either. It is not my Pokemon of the year, and neither is Hoopa. It is Lucario. I think Lucario has been the staple Pokemon in Pokemon Unite for year one. If you were to look back at year one of Pokemon Unite and you were to think of one Pokemon that for the most part of it dominated the entire time, it has been Lucario. Just an insanely good Pokemon, still really, really great. And I do think year one of Pokemon Unite feels like Lucario's year. Who's it going to be in year two? I really don't know. I don't know what this game's going to look like. I can't wait to play more and more of the new map. The only problem is I'm playing it on the test server, which is like, it's like playing Pokemon Unite, but you've had a few too many, and every once in a while, someone just comes in and starts throwing things at you, and you drop your phone, and you have to like pick it up, but you're kind of in the dark, and you can't find your phone. That's playing on the public test server. I hope you enjoyed this. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. And now, one final time before year two. Boop, 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 boop. Here we go. So, like I'm saying, it doesn't matter that it just came out. The Pokemon of the year, the best Pokemon that they released, probably the best Pokemon they're going to release, is Tyranitar. Tyranitar is insane. You can't get away from this Pokemon. It shields with Ancient Power, then it shields again, then its Unite move executes you. The only saving grace are there are Pokemon like Snorlax, Cinderace, and Mr. Mime who are truly unbelievably good and can do something about it. Again, as I mentioned before, Talonflame really rocketing up in viability, and we're seeing tanks just drop off for the most part. After Snorlax became Snorlax and really dominated worlds, Greedon's kind of useless, Blastoise kind of useless, Slowbro's kind of useless. Unfortunately, Buzzwol still hanging out just low tier right now. There you go. My tier list, year one of Pokemon Unite, is in the books. I love you. Let me know what you think in the comments. I'll see y'all next time.
On Wednesdays, we wear pink.